wilderness. And that's the thing that mainly concerns me here is the wilderness that we're all finding ourselves in these days. There's a lot of people being driven out of normal society, and the picture you get is that, judging by your own experiences along those lines, is there's a lot of people who don't really know perhaps what's going on in their situation, in that the massive problem we've got these days is the lack of spirituality. There's a form of spirituality and all the rest of it that people are trying to get to grips with. But the real spirituality, what everyone's looking for, is true spirituality itself. Now, what is true spirituality? Is it a concept? Is it a thing? Or is it a person and personality? I went down all those roads myself, going back years ago, in my pursuit of what you could say Shangri-La happiness, whatever you want to call it. We're all looking for peace in our lives, peace of mind, peace of heart, and whether people realise it or not, tranquility of spirit is the main peace that we're all looking for. We're looking for that true tranquility, a union of heart with heart, mind with mind, spirit with spirit. And mind with mind with who? Heart with who? Spirit with who? It's not so much the spiritual vibe that you're looking for, it's more the spiritual reality of an actual reality of a living God. That there is such a thing as a God, a Father of spirits. Now think of that there, a Father of spirits. God is a spirit, and they that worship him, in other words, love him, must worship or love him in spirit and in truth. So what does that mean? God is a spirit and is the Father of spirits. Well, if God is the Father of spirits and God is the Father of us all, then you would have to conclude, if God is the Father of every human being on this planet, 7 billion people, then he's the Father of every one of us, in that we are all spirit. We live in a world where we're in this fleshly, earthly body. But the true reality is that we are spirit. And what we're actually doing is we're actually longing to unite. Heart with heart, mind with mind, spirit with spirit, with the great Father of spirits that created us all. That's where we're trying to get to. Now, loads of people have no idea or no concept or nothing in their lives that tells them in any way at all to go in that direction. That is the direction we should all be headed, to a direction where we unite with God, mind with mind, heart with heart, spirit with spirit. That's what we're all looking for. So how do we find our way into that is the big question. So a lot of people with that in mind are trying to find their way through what's called normal society. And you'd have to say we've got what you might call these days, particularly amongst the younger generation, a generation that has been castrated, if you like, spiritually castrated from birth. They have no idea whatsoever of a spiritual reality or a spiritual God or a spiritual Father, or just what it is they're actually looking for. Obviously people are looking to unite mind with mind, heart with heart, spirit with spirit with another human being. But what they run into is the very strange fact that in other human beings there is no spiritual reality other than the mercy of God. The mercy of God does come down on people a lot, in that a lot of people don't understand all this. So God's merciful and would, believe it or not, give a lot of people his anointing and his blessing and his spirit to various degrees. And a lot of people still fall in love to this day and don't understand that they're actually falling in love in a lot of ways, in a sense, with the Spirit of God in that person that they fall in love with. So it's not that God has totally forsaken people and left them totally alone, because a lot of people don't understand this. But even so, the very purpose of life has to be discovered and found out through, in a lot of ways, trial and error. So there's a lot of people who are wandering in a kind of a wilderness, trying to get to grips with all of these feelings they're having, and all the feelings they're not having is the main concern here, in that people are running more and more into what you might call spiritual lifelessness, spiritual emptiness, and a spiritual void of the heart, and not quite understanding what it is, in that no one's ever told them that this feeling you're feeling is a result of this empty void of the heart, in that your heart was created to be united with the great Father of spirits, the great Father of your spirit and everybody else's spirit on this earth. So there's a massive, massive disconnection that's taken place these days, in that society and the world as a whole has kind of severed, cut that vital link that we all should be having with the spiritual realities of life itself, the spiritual realities of God himself. The very idea actually seems to be repugnant to most people these days, that you can actually unite spiritually with a very, very spiritual God and find happiness that way. So the big question is, what do we all do about it? How do you get people into the reality of the fact that there is a loving spiritual God whom they need to call upon and find? So a lot of people are actually encountering other people and finding that they find in that relationship, they're finding what they might call a repelling feeling, in that rather than finding they can unite and connect with different people, they find that repelling feeling, in that everything starts falling apart. It's a bit like two magnets that are trying to join together. And if you've ever got two magnets in your hand and tried to join them one way, they click together. But if you turn the magnets around and you try to join them back to front, so to speak, the magnet repels. So no matter how much you try to join those magnets together, they just repel each other. So we've got a world now, what you would say, where everyone's, rather than magnetising each other, by connecting to this great, wonderful Father of spirits, you, in that same sense, become like a magnet, in that you can draw other people to be, if you like, assuming they're a magnet, and they wish to connect. You might encounter someone who's receptive to your magnetism, and your magnetism of spirit is coming from the great Father of spirits himself, in that you've connected with the magnetism of God's spirit, and that magnetism of God's spirit is coming through you and is magnetising someone in that your spirit, you would say, is connected to the Spirit of God, in that you have become magnetised and connected to God spiritually like a magnet, And in that same sense, you have become magnetised yourself. I mean, if you put a bit of metal next to a magnet long enough, it actually becomes magnetised itself. So if you connect to the magnetism of God, to the Spirit of God, to the presence of God, like a magnet, then you yourself become like a magnet to other people who are receptive to God's Spirit. Now, sad to say, these days there are a lot of people who probably had their chances with God and chose to reject God. And that's particularly true of the older generation. So they, in that sense, have turned their back on God and are, in that same sense, like magnets that rather than that draw, they repel. So people would encounter other people who are not receptive to the Spirit of God, in that they kind of, in that same sense, have their backs turned to God and are not able to be magnetised to you. So the problem you're going to have is that you will encounter people who you do not in any way at all connect with. No matter how much you try to become one with those people, you won't find the same magnetism and spiritual connection with those people that you might with other people. Now, when you say other people these days, you are really talking not the majority, you're talking more in the minority, in that there's only a minority of people these days who are seeking and searching out the actual true reality of God, the true reality of life, and the true spiritual side of life. And the problem is with that, a lot of these people won't understand that that's what they're doing. They're simply looking for something they know not what. So the only thing you can do really is do your best to explain your own experiences along those lines and try to get people to understand just how it was for you. In that, I would say I'm one of those people who, throughout my life, I found that I couldn't totally connect with a lot of people, in that there was always that repelling feeling, in that they just didn't seem to click together and become one. I couldn't actually find that unity of heart with heart, mind with mind, and even body with body, if you like, if you're talking along those lines. So that is a problem too. Because a lot of people these days are looking for like a soulmate, looking for a girlfriend looking for a boyfriend, girlfriend, etc., or looking for a husband. So there really is a struggle these days for people to find true love. And not understanding that true love is a spiritual thing rather than a mere physical thing, is a spiritual thing rather than a mere mental thing. And there's a lot more you're looking for in another person than a merely physical, mental relationship. That you need to get God in that relationship to make it work. You need the magnetism of God's Spirit in that relationship to make the whole thing work. Because without the magnetism of God's Spirit, there would never be that kind of complete unity and becoming totally one with each other. So that's the problem a lot of people are going to have these days if they choose to reject, that there is a spiritual side to life, there is a God, and that there is another way other than what normal society are offering them. So people are going through life with a rejection of those true values in life. And sad to say, time goes by and those people will find themselves more and more pushed out into a wilderness, so to speak. And these days there's a lot of people who are actually connecting with God, connecting together with Jesus, who is the Son of God, and more those people are finding themselves pushed out of normal society, because those that repel rather than connect to God are growing in numbers. So you've got a large growing number of people like the magnets who are turning their back on God and becoming repellent to you, repellent to the true magnetism of God's Spirit, if you like. And the sad fact is that these people who are repellent and have lost their magnetism, if you like, I mean, I don't know, perhaps a lot of people haven't tried it. You should try it. Get two magnets, turn them this way round and they click together. Turn the two magnets round and they will repel. Now, the people of the earth these days are really, it's a sad fact that they've, in that same sense, because people have turned their backs on God, particularly in the older generation, have turned their backs on God, what they don't realise is that they've actually turned their backs on each other. In that they're going to try to bring things together, and it's like trying to pull these two magnets together when all you've got is this repelling feeling all the time. And no matter how much you try to hold these two magnets together, the repelling feeling is always there. You can force them together, but all you'll get is this repelling feeling all the time, pushing everyone away. So the sad fact is we are headed for a real serious, massive showdown with all of this repelling that we've got in today's world. The more and more people that are turning their backs on God, the more and more people are going to find themselves repelling against each other and never ever finding that complete unity of mind with mind, heart with heart, spirit with spirit. They're always going to find friction and a repelling feeling with no matter who they meet, no matter where they go, no matter what they do. Everything will repel away from them rather than draw to them. Jesus said, "He that believeth not the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abideth on him." There's a lot of people who've had chance after chance to receive Jesus and receive life, that have encountered this magnetism of God's Spirit in their lives, and that have rejected it totally outright, totally rejected the true reality of life, even though they knew it was reality, totally turned their backs on God, even though they knew he was real, totally chose to ignore God and treat him as if he's nothing and nobody and nowhere, and to go through life with that kind of attitude, when all along deep down, way deep down in their hearts, they know good and well there is a God, and they know good and well there is a spiritual reality to life, and they know good and well that they've rejected that reality. So they've become a real serious repellent to God and to those who are in God and of God and through God, and choose to live their lives in God, and are magnets to anyone who might want God. So the people who might want God these days are far and few. So wide and broad is the way that's leading to destruction, and straight and narrow is the way that's leading to life. And few there be that are finding it. And these days you'd have to say that narrow way that leads to life is in this same sense becoming narrower, it would appear. And the majority that are rejecting life, rejecting the true spiritual reality of life, are growing in numbers. And so what you've got now is a world of people growing in numbers, or rejecting God's mercy, rejecting the true spiritual realities of life. and becoming more and more repellent to the true reality of life, the true spiritual reality of life. And what they don't realise is, what they are realising is, they're becoming more and more repellent to each other. In that there's a lot of people these days that just don't get on anymore. They don't get on with each other anymore because there's no love in their lives, no love in their lives, no spirit in their lives, no God in their lives. So what you know, when you think about it, there's a younger generation of people growing up who are trying to find their way through all this and encountering these same feelings of emptiness and hollowness and this horrible aching void of the heart, and not knowing what to do with it. And a lot of them are turning to drugs, drink and all the rest of it, and turning to all kinds of extremities in order to fill this vacuum in the heart. And there's less and less people to tell them just what it is that's going wrong, just what it is they're feeling, and just where they should be looking and where they should be going to find the answers to all of this problem. All of this major problem in people's lives of no spiritual reality, no God, no Father of spirits, no union of mind with mind, heart with heart, and spirit with spirit. And in a lot of cases, even with body, people are trying to, are driven more and more into isolation and loneliness, living behind closed doors and in wars. Getting lost on things like computers and trying to unite with others through the computer technology that we've all got these days, looking for that union of mind with mind, heart with heart, and spirit with spirit, not knowing that what they're actually trying to do is unite mind with God, heart with God, and spirit with God. And you might find that strange, that how on earth can you unite with God, mind with mind, heart with heart, spirit with spirit? Well, you can actually do that with another person who also wishes, like you, to unite together with you, mind with mind, heart with heart, and spirit with spirit, in that they sense in you that magnetism of God, that magnetism of God in your words, that your words are becoming magnetised. And it's the spirit that quickeneth, maketh alive. It's the spirit that can bring life to your words, that can bring life to your heart, that can bring life to your mind, that can bring life to your spirit. So it's the spirit that needs to unite with another person. Your spirit needs to unite with their spirit. Your heart needs to unite with their heart. Your mind needs to unite with their mind. And through you uniting together with each other in the Spirit of God, in that same sense, you can unite mind with God, mind to mind with each other, heart to heart with God, heart to heart with each other, spirit to spirit with God, spirit to spirit with each other. And you, in that same sense, can become totally one with the very spirit of life itself, life himself, not itself. And you can truly become a child of the living Father of spirits. God is a spirit, and they that worship him, or in other words, love him, must love him in spirit and in truth. So one way of doing that is to find somebody else who wishes to unite in the same spirit, in the same love, through the same God, through the same spirit, that wishes to get together with you in a spiritual unity, in a spiritual love and a spiritual togetherness, in a spiritual mind, spiritual heart, spiritual spirit, with the spiritual spirit of God himself. And the simple way to do that is as Jesus did it with the woman at the well. A woman was at the well talking to Jesus. And Jesus said to her, the true worshippers need to worship God in spirit and in truth. She thought you had to go to the mountains to worship God, and the Jews back then thought you had to go to the temple to worship God. But Jesus said the true worshippers are those that worship God, that love God in spirit and in truth. So in that same sense, that woman who was at the well, I imagine sat on the wall of a well talking to Jesus, slowly found herself uniting together with Jesus, heart with heart, mind with mind, spirit with spirit. And she had a definite sense, you can guarantee it, in talking to Jesus, of this self-same, very same thing, in that her mind was united together totally with the mind of Jesus. Her heart was united totally together with the heart of Jesus. Her spirit was united together and became one with Jesus, and became one in that same sense with the Father of spirits. And Jesus saying to her, God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. And that's what that woman did that day. That woman had been married 5 times, and all her life she'd been looking for love. All her life, you picture, she'd been looking for that heart to heart, that union of heart with heart, that union of mind with mind, that union of spirit with spirit, that sense of purpose that she could only find from the very presence of God in a relationship. She'd been married 5 times and was now living with a man, and all her life she'd never found, the picture you get, that presence that she'd been looking for, that true union of mind with mind, heart with heart, and spirit with spirit. Well, that's what everyone in their whole life are looking for these days. They're looking for, whether they realise it or not, it's as if everyone has to go through all these different things, through all these different experiences in trying to find that. And for a lot of people who've encountered God, and you might find it hard to believe, some people, that people have actually had more than a lot of people let on. In their lives, they've had times when God, through Jesus, have come to them in one form or some form or another, one way or some way or another, and spoken to that person on an individual level, and revealed in that same sense himself to them, and give them that chance that they could have Jesus in their lives, they could have God in their lives, and they had a definite sense of reality of the very Spirit and presence of God in this encounter. Now, a lot of people will push that way down into their heart, if you like, well, out of their hearts, I imagine, and way, way back out of their minds. And they would swear black and blue till they're blue in the face that they'd never ever had any such experience or encounter, and that they refuse and do not believe in God, and there's no such thing as God even they know full well deep down that they've had that experience. So none of us should be fooled by a lot of people, and there's no doubt millions of people who have actually encountered God, have actually had a spiritual experience which has revealed to them that there is a God. Now, the one thing would help a lot of people, and you have to be adamant about this, is that loads and loads and loads, millions and millions and millions of people have had these experiences and refuse 100% to ever mention that it ever happened, that it ever did happen, or that it ever could happen even. They would have totally rejected Jesus, so much so that their hearts have been hardened, their ears have been hardened, and that they'd in that same sense turn their back on God and become a repelling kind of force for, rather than a force for evil, they've become a repelling force for evil. What did I say? Then they've actually become a repelling force, not for good, but for evil. So their whole lives is lived in particularly the leadership at the top of all these countries these days. Most of them are living a life where they're actually extremely repellent towards God and extremely repellent towards the very nation that they assume leadership and rulership over, in that they're not there to rule over you and to draw you to God. They're there to rule over you and repel you against God. In that Jesus said, "He that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad." So what you've got is a world of people that are not gathering with Jesus. Jesus said, "He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad." So we've got a world now where everybody's scattering. So much so that more and more people are going away from God. And not only away from God, they're going away from each other, because they're never ever in a million years, or even in a billion years, you can go away from God as long as you choose. It's everyone's choice. We all have a choice. So anyone who chooses to go away from that true magnetism of life, that true uniting spirit of love, that truly unites everybody and makes them one, is never, ever in a million years going to find the day when they truly find what they're looking for. And again, what we're looking for is that true union of heart with heart, mind with mind, spirit with spirit, with the one true God and Father that created us all. And through uniting with the one true God, through heart with heart, mind with mind, spirit with spirit, we can then unite together with others who wish to unite in the same spirit as you, with God and you. And 2 and 3 gathered together in Jesus' name, Jesus will be in the midst of those, in all of those people. So the main thing in life is to actually seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you, ask and ye shall receive. The way into that union of, true union of life, that true Shangri-La that you're looking for in life, that true spirit of love, in a lot of ways you're pushed out of this world and you'll find yourself more and more in a wilderness to everybody else in the world, in that they're all pushing you out. You're going to find millions and millions of people in this world are going to push you out, because millions and millions and millions of people, if not billions, do not want God, and more are turning their backs on God. And sad to say, they don't quite realise it totally yet, but they will find more and more as time goes by. What they're actually doing is turning their backs on each other. So if you ever in your life sense that horrible repelling feeling when you're with other people, in that they're pushing you more and more out into a wilderness, as St. John was pushed out into his wilderness. St. John was on an island of Patmos back in his day. St. John was alive during the Roman Empire, and they all pushed him out and put him on the island of Patmos. And John found himself on a spirit trip with an angel, and the angel was a departed saint, in that he used to live in this world, And this angel was sent by God to take John on a spirit trip to show him what was called New Jerusalem. So St. John found that total unity of heart with heart, mind with mind, spirit with spirit with God. And he also found that total unity of heart with heart, mind with mind, spirit with an angel sent by God. So the good thing is, the more and more the people of the world push you out of this world, they push you out, and more into the presence of these angels and these departed saints who are united together with God, who have chosen not to reject God. So the real good thing is, if you find that you are being pushed more and more and more and more out of this world and more into the wilderness, then the real truth of the matter is that you're in good company with people like John, who was always pushed out. Moses was pushed out of normal society and found himself in the wilderness and had an encounter with God when he saw the burning bush. And God told him that he needed to go into Egypt to help all those people there that were also finding themselves pushed out of normal society in Egypt. The people that had rejected God in Egypt were repelling Moses' people out of normal society and more into the wilderness. So the good thing is that if you do find yourself being pushed out of normal society and pushed out into the wilderness, then you're in good company with departed saints, like this angel who was a departed saint that was sent to take John on this spirit trip to show him. He said he carried me away in the spirit to, this is what John said, that this angel carried him away in the spirit to a great and high mountain. Now this great and high mountain that he carried him away to was called New Jerusalem. And New Jerusalem, he saw this New Jerusalem, this New Jerusalem will be the final solution to the problem in the Middle East. It won't get there for 1,000 years, but it actually is the final solution to the problem in the Middle East. In that pretty soon now in the near future, they're going to rebuild the temple that they had out there and reinstitute animal sacrifice worship and all the rest of it, and try to set up Jerusalem as the capital of the whole world. This will never work because the people who are setting up the temple in Jerusalem have turned their backs on God and are a repelling force, in that they're repelling, offering the world leadership, but at the same time they're repelling the very people who they say they want to rule over, just as practically every leader in the world today is a repelling force who is not yielded to God, who is repelling against God. And when you repel against God and turn your back on God, you will find yourself repelling other people, and you will be a repelling force that scatters. That's why none of these leaders will ever bring us into unity. All they'll ever do is scatter, because Jesus said, "He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad." So is it any wonder these days that you've got so many repelling influences in the world, that no one wants true unity of heart, mind, spirit with God himself and each other, which can only be achieved and found through uniting together with Jesus himself. Jesus came to bridge that gap, to remagnetise our lives, in that if we ask Jesus into our hearts, we then become re-magnetised with the love of God, with the love of Jesus. And then we can find our lives turned around. It can turn us around like a magnet. You'd simply take Jesus into your heart. Jesus being the very magnetism of love and life and the Spirit of God himself. So you simply take Jesus into your heart. If you can in any way understand what I'm trying to say in my own kind of funny, kind of earthly, kind of simplistic kind of way, in spite of the fact that I'm not good reader, not good speaker, not good this, that or whatever I'm doing, I can only simply do my best as a human being to relay all this across to you, and as I do my best to yield to the very magnetism of God himself, to the very magnetism of the Spirit of God himself, to totally click together as best I can with the very magnetism of the Spirit of God himself, and then in that same sense try to magnetise you into and show you that Jesus, in spite of this horrible human being that I am without him, without Jesus, and I would be just like anyone else. If I turned my back on Jesus, or I simply didn't have Jesus, it would be paramount to me turning my back on Jesus, and all I'd be is a repeller, a but, someone who's pushing people away. No matter how much I wanted to join together, and I'd just be pushing them away. The main thing and the only thing I can possibly do, and hopefully, God willing, I can get it right, and that is to yield to the Spirit of God, to become magnetised by the very Spirit of Jesus himself, in that trying to convince you that Jesus has been taken into my heart, that this corruptible, and that's what it is, this flesh here, me sat here, extremely corruptible without Jesus, that this corruptible has in this same sense put on incorruption. Jesus is the incorruptible in that he was never corrupted. He didn't even, when he rose again, totally incorruptible. So you take in Jesus into your heart, and then you, in that same sense, with Jesus in your heart, become the incorruptible magnetism of God. Forget this outer shell, but look more to Jesus who is in me. And all I can do is my best to yield to Jesus, to yield to God. Those that receive Jesus receive God. And in this same sense, become one with God through becoming one with Jesus. And in this same sense, say to you, look, all I'm trying to do here, sat here, is to be a magnet. And I understand what you're going through. I understand how you feel. And in spite of my human frailty and failings and all the rest of it, my corruptible nature, which is what we all are, this incorruptible Jesus has come into my life, and he chooses to use me and to magnetise others through me, in that the very magnetism of God's love is in me and is reaching out to you and saying to you, look, in this same sense, put this person out of the way. Take this magnetism, which is Jesus. Take Jesus into your heart. Take him into your very heart. Take him into your very holy of holies, which is your heart. And if you do that, you'll find that in your very intimate, spiritual, holy of holies self, if you take Jesus into that very intimate, that heart of yours that's so intricate and intimate, that wishes to connect, to become one with one, wants to become heart with heart, mind with mind, spirit with spirit, and that it is who it is you've been looking for all your life is Jesus. It's Jesus who you wish, who you've longed for all your life, to become one with, to unite with. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Jesus is the very spirit and truth of God. So if you receive Jesus into your heart, you then will become one with God, in that this corruptible has put on incorruptible, and only incorruptible can ever unite with God. So you'll never unite together with God as an incorruptible human being. So by taking Jesus into your heart, you in that same sense have become incorruptible, in that then God will receive you, because it's not for God to make any mistakes. God cannot associate himself with anything that is evil. God has to remain perfect, he has to remain true, he has to remain pure, he has to remain loving, he has to be a person who never ever makes mistakes, that can in no way ever do evil, can in never ever have anything to do whatsoever with evil. He wants everything to do with you, and the way that you can unite with God and God have everything to do with you is through Jesus. By taking Jesus into your heart, you, a corruptible human being, have put on incorruption, and then through the incorruptible Jesus who is in your heart, you can then unite with God and become one. So, and then through that same incorruptible spirit of Jesus, you can totally unite with other people who wish to become one with you in spirit and in truth. In other words, in Jesus, who is the truth. So that's how you do it. You simply take Jesus into your heart, and through taking Jesus into your heart, you then become united with the Father of spirits, and then you will become one spiritually with God, and then you will be able to become one spiritually with other people. So really, you know, you should try that. I mean, I know a lot of people come up with all this kind of way of putting it, that you should repent and all this sort of stuff. What they mean is, in a lot of ways, is you should turn around, you know. Don't show God your back, in that you're like a repelling kind of magnet, you know, so to speak. Why repel against God? Simply take Jesus, turn it around, turn your life around through taking Jesus into your heart, and then you become magnetised to God and become one with God. So then you find exactly what you've been looking for all your life. Your whole life, whether people choose to believe or not, it is a fact. Everyone in their whole life is seeking that union of mind with mind, heart with heart, and spirit with spirit. And that union of mind with mind, heart with heart, spirit with spirit, can only be achieved by uniting together spiritually with God through Jesus. So if you can somehow or other comprehend that, and hopefully I put it over as best I can and haven't been too jittery about it, or it's not easy to always stay in the same spirit yourself, believe me. All I can do is do my best to deliver this as I understand it, and throughout to stay united and connected with the same Spirit of God, and to be like a magnet for Jesus, through Jesus, and to magnetise people in through the same Spirit, through the same love, through the same God, and throughout keep the connection. So a lot of this is about making that connection yourself, which is a kind of a diligent effort on my part, and I don't always get it right, but I, God willing, you know, in spite of my self, I'll have to say I do get it right, because I'm saying this now and I say, am I getting it right? Yeah, I would say I'm doing my best, and I am getting that kind of union of heart with heart, mind with mind, spirit with spirit as I speak. And the theme going for all of this is the magnetism of mind with mind, heart with heart, spirit with spirit. I've said it a million times, I know. I'm simply saying that for emphasis. And it's like keeping a spiritual current going, and the spiritual theme going, and the spiritual river for all of this is, if you want to unite mind with mind, heart with heart, spirit with spirit, then unite with me in that same sense, in that I'm sat here as an instrument of God's love, and I'm just simply instrumentally trying to get it across to you that you too can enter into this current, come into this spiritual current, this spiritual magnetism of God's love through Jesus. That picture God up there, if you like, picture him out there, and then picture that the magnetism of God is going into Jesus, who is in me, in my heart. Jesus has gone into my heart of hearts, my holy of holies, and Jesus in there is now reaching out to you and telling you that you can do the same. You can take the same Jesus that I've got in there into your heart, and you, through taking Jesus into your heart, can unite heart to heart with Jesus himself. You can unite mind to mind with Jesus himself. You can unite spirit to spirit with Jesus himself. And through uniting through mind, heart and spirit with Jesus, you can then unite with mind, heart and spirit to God himself. And if there's anyone else in your life who you're trying your best to unite with, maybe it's your boyfriend, maybe it's your girlfriend, maybe it's your best friend, maybe it's your mother or anyone else. If you, in this same sense that there's a receptive spirit there in them, in that you talk to other people and you sense that heart-to-heart kind of magnetism telling you that that person is receptive and is a potential person who you can turn around and magnetise them with the same love, then you too will then find that union of heart with heart, mind with mind, spirit with spirit, through the same spiritual magnetism of God and Jesus and your own spirit, all becoming one together in God. See, it's that simple. So you know, it's simple if you comprehend this, and you feel the magnetism talking to your heart, and you feel that drawing in feeling from God himself, not from me. Just simply forget me and see me as an instrument of God's love. Then see Jesus in all of this and understand that without Jesus, you will in a sense be the magnet that repels, and will never find someone who you can unite with. You will always find that repelling feeling. Wherever you go, whoever you meet with, you might try to become one, but it's in that same sense you can become one back to back, and it ain't much fun, if you like. But wouldn't you rather become one and click together in love, in spirit and in truth, in the true spiritual unity of heart with heart, mind with mind, spirit with spirit? If you can see all that, simply, if you like, put your hands together. You don't have to put your hands together, you can reach out. You can simply acknowledge this simple truth. Acknowledge, if you feel that Jesus has spoken to you in any way through these words or through these demonstrations of whatever, reading that story earlier on, singing, through me going on and on and on about union of mind with mind, heart with heart, spirit with spirit, to get my point across, to the very fact that there is a magnetism here flowing through all of this, reaching out to you. And if you sense that in any way at all, maybe I've gone on about it too much, whatever, just forget all that. Push that out of the way. If anyone has spoken here, then it has to be Jesus. Because if I'm speaking, then nothing's being said, I'm simply pushing you away. If you're a person who's receptive, then Jesus could be and would be speaking to you through this mere mortal man sat here. So I hope that in some way or other helps you. If you're finding yourself being pushed out of this world and pushed out into a wilderness, as so many other people have, pushed out into the wilderness, like John did. Got that bush there to demonstrate that Moses and his people were pushed out, that God appeared to Moses and said to him that I am that I am. He told Moses to go down into Egypt to lead the people out of Egypt, seeing as they're all being pushed out of normal society there into slavery. They were rejects of normal society, classified as outcasts, and in that same sense pushed out into the wilderness of that world in that day and age. Moses came along and led them out into the wilderness where they could all become one with God, where they could all unite with the Father of Spirits, where they could truly unite with God, mind with mind, I'll say it again, heart with heart, spirit with spirit, totally becoming one with God and finding the spiritual reality in life rather than the physical dead reality of no life, and a life that repels God, turns their back on God, turns their back on each other, and never ever it finds the day when they find what they're looking for. I mean, if you turn your back on the very thing you're looking for, then you'll never find what you're looking for. Jesus said there was a woman who lost a coin. The kingdom of heaven is like a woman who lost a coin. And she searched everywhere for that coin. Now, if she stopped searching, then she would have never found that coin. So people who've stopped searching will never find the coin. If you don't look for the coin you've lost, then you'll never find it. Well, she found her coin, and she gathered all her friends together and told them all to rejoice, because she'd lost a coin and found it. Now, the picture you get is kind of like she lost a coin that was worth a lot of money, maybe a gold coin. And with that gold coin, she could do so much. Without the gold coin, she could do so little. So once she found that gold coin, you could say, she could do so much more than without it. So a lot of people choose to go through life without all this I've been talking about, without Jesus. I mean, forget me, don't worry about what I'm talking about. Forget everything I've said. But if Jesus is talking through this mere corruptible, mortal human being, using in that same sense me to talk to you, then listen to him and consider what he's saying to you. And all I've done my best is to represent Jesus and to bring you into the same reality that I found, having had the same experiences that I'm assuming whoever might be listening to this is having. I'm particularly talking to people who are drawn out, that are pushed out of normal society and are finding themselves out here in this wilderness, looking for their Shangri-La, lost in the mountains, if you like, lost out there, perhaps like in the story I tried to read earlier on. Come over a bit cheery, I think. I was trying to get yielded to God's Spirit, maybe because I'm not the best of readers, simply doing the best with what I've got, and that's my own tiny little feeble little mind, and try my best to get across this reality. Well, anyway, that story was talking about the man found himself in a plane crash and then found himself lost in the mountains, and then found himself in a place called Shangri-La, where they had found that kind of peaceful haven of the heart, there in Shangri-La, of the mind, of the spirit, of union with heart, union of mind with mind, union of spirit with spirit, union with the great spirit that created us all, the very Father of love himself, the Father of all spirits. I mean, think of God in the same sense, in that people talk of God, but now picture God being the Father of spirits. He is the very Father of spirits. That tells you that we've all got a spirit. God is the Father of our spirits. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit, must unite together with him in spirit and in truth, in Jesus. Jesus is the very magnetism of God that magnetises us, that turns us around, that remagnetises us and clicks us together back with God, union with God and union with each other. And anyone who unites with God can unite with others who too have united with God and united with Jesus. And all of those people can become one in God's Spirit, can become totally magnetised together. And yes, it's a struggle to get into that Spirit of God. It's like this bloke who was lost in the mountains, in that he had to go through a lot of hardship to get there. He had to search, really search amongst the mountains for some kind of place where he could find some kind of... I mean, if you're lost in the mountains, where do you go? Maybe you don't know north, south, east or west. You're not going to just sit there and do nothing. You're going to look for a way out of that situation. So there's a lot of people lost, if you like, crashed. Their lives have crashed, like that plane crashed in the mountains. Their lives have crashed, and they've crashed with this whole thing. They crashed with all this, that they don't know which way to turn. They don't know who to turn to anymore, because everyone they meet seems to be pushing them out, pushing them out, pushing them out, till finally they crash amongst the mountains. They find themselves lost out there in the wilderness amongst the mountains, as Moses did, as St. John did, as all those other people did, as no doubt this departed saint. This angel up here was actually once lived on this earth as a saint, and this angel was sent to St. John to take him on this spirit trip, to show him this New Jerusalem, which would be the final solution to the problem in the Middle East in years to come, amongst other things, and would be, well, what actually New Jerusalem is a kind of a pyramidical, made of, if you like, made of all kinds of precious stones with kind of see-through walls, in a kind of in the same sense, it's like a giant house where God's children all live together as one. Jesus said that I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am, ye may be also, that ye may be one, as what I also am one. God in Jesus and Jesus in us, I in you, you in me, and Jesus in God, that we all might be one. So Jesus has created a house in this same sense. I mean, you're looking at 1,500 miles high, 1,500 miles wide, in that same sense, the most biggest kind of house ever created, if you like. Jesus is in my Father's house. This house are many mansions, like many rooms, many mansions, if you like. Mansions, we usually think of big houses, but in that same sense, these big houses, if you like, or mansions, all inside this one great big pyramidical shape kind of building, if you like, where Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am, ye may be also, that they all might be one, as I am in God, Jesus says, and God in Jesus, and Jesus in us. And then one day we'll all live in this New Jerusalem, Jerusalem means simply, in a sense, the city of God, like the city of God with a kind of capital. So the capital of England is London, America, it's Washington, I think, and all that sort of thing. So the capital of God's world is Jerusalem, as it's called. This is New Jerusalem, where God's children will all live one day as one, all united together in mind, in heart, in spirit, and in truth, and in Jesus, all totally magnetised to each other, no one repelling any other person, in a world of total unity of, I say it again, mind with mind, heart with heart, spirit with spirit, united together with God and with each other. So with everything I've said, God willing, if you're in the wilderness or pushed out into the wilderness, then don't feel so alone, because there are loads of others that have been pushed out by all the repellers, those that have turned their backs on God, pushing you out, pushing you out, pushing you out, pushing you into this wilderness. Maybe your life has crashed, like that plane in that story, and the man in the story found Shangri-La, found that place of spiritual union of, so one last time, union of mind with mind, heart with heart, and spirit with spirit, united together not only with each other, but united together with God, with Jesus, and each other, that they all might be one. God in Jesus, Jesus in us in Jesus, and Jesus in God, and everybody united together in one, in Jesus, in love and in truth, worshipping the Father of spirits, in spirit and in truth.
Sweet mystery of life, at last I find thee, at last I found the reason for it all. Sweet mystery of life, at last I found thee, with love and love alone, the whole world yearns for. You can have your earthly treasures, your silver and your gold. You can live a life of pleasure, like a tale that's often told. You can live a life of pleasure from your birth till you get old. But it's the Spirit, oh, it's the Spirit that has never yet been sold. Sweet mystery of life, at last I found thee, at last I found the reason for it all. Sweet mystery of life, at last I found thee, 'tis love and love alone, the whole world yearns for. You may drink every fount of pleasure, you may quaff every cup of fame, but alas, in the end you'll die of thirst just the same. At last I